Welcome to ABC Interactive English. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam. And we have been talking about the Elves and the Shoemaker. This is a fable or a story or a fairy tale. We kind of use a lot of those different words to mean this kind of magical story.
Yeah.
And it's a very famous one from the Brothers Grimm originally.
That's right. So the Brothers Grimm are two brothers who are from Germany. And it was a very long time ago. They wrote many famous stories that you've probably read.
Yes, and so you've probably heard of things like Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood,
Yeah.
Snow White.
That's another.
What else?
Rapunzel.
Rapunzel, yeah.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, and so if some of these sound familiar, they might sound familiar to you because of Disney. So Disney has actually taken quite a few of these old stories and turned them into pretty famous movies. I think Snow White was the first animated movie ever, something like that. And so it's got this long history, and it's based on a Brothers Grimm story.
I'm still waiting for that Disney Elves and the Shoemaker movie.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a short somewhere out there. There might be a TV show somewhere out there. I'm not totally sure. But one thing, if you actually ever want to read the original stories, you'll find out that they are really different from Disney. Disney tends to have a lot more happiness and good things happening in the stories. And unfortunately, the Brothers Grimm's stories, the original ones, have a lot of darker, creepier, weirder things happening than in the other ones.
Not always happy endings.
Not always happy endings, but hopefully for our story today, we're going to have a happy ending and nothing bad will happen.
I hope so.
So let's go ahead and jump right into it.
In the morning, the shoemaker found shoes on his table again. He couldn't believe it. Then he sold the shoes and bought more leather. That happened again and again, and soon the shoemaker wasn't poor.
Hello, today we're talking about the Elves and the Shoemaker, Part 2. So last time we read about how this shoemaker had put out some leather, and then he went to bed, and in the morning he found shoes, and he was able to sell those shoes for money. So we're going to continue reading the story. In the morning, the shoemaker found shoes on his table again. He couldn't believe it. So that meant because the night before, he actually put out leather for 2 pieces of shoes.
Yes, and so he went to bed thinking maybe this will happen again, and then wow, surprise, surprise, it did happen again.
Yeah.
So now he's got 2 pairs of shoes. Yeah.
So he had first night he had got 1 pair, now he's got 2 more pairs. So he's had 3 pairs of shoes magically appear.
Yeah, so he must be pretty happy about that, especially since he was able to sell the first shoe. So now hopefully he can sell these ones and make more money. And again, we heard in the beginning that he is a poor shoemaker, so he doesn't have a lot of money. So this is probably very helpful for him. And in this part of the story, we had the word again. Again is an adverb, and it is used to show how often something happens, or if something happens more than once. So if something happens again, then it's going to happen more than once. And in this case, he went to sleep the first night and wow, a pair of shoes. And then he went to sleep the second night and it happened again. There were shoes that showed up again. So again, if this word this word means happens more than once or do something more than once. If you read a book and you loved it, then you might want to read the book again. And so you read it a second time or a third time or a fourth time. If it's Harry Potter, I've probably read those quite a few times. So again and again. And then if we go back to our story, we have then he sold the shoes and bought more leather.
Wow, so that's actually got another vocabulary word in it, which is sell. So sell is a verb, and in this case we saw it in the past tense with sold. So sell means to give something to someone for money, usually. So he sold the shoes means that someone came in and gave him money and he sold the shoes to them. And sell is, of course, the opposite of buy. So in this case, the person bought the shoes from the shoemaker sold the shoes to them. And we can also see that the shoemaker, after he sold the shoes, he used that money to buy more leather.
Yes.
So the story continues. That happened again and again. And soon the shoemaker wasn't poor.
Okay, so we had this word happened in that part. So if something happens, it takes place or it occurs. And so in this case of our story, it says that happened again and again. The thing that happened was that he put leather out, they turned into shoes, and he sold the shoes, and he got more money and bought more leather. So this whole series of events, this 1, 2, 3, 4 things that happened, and then he got more and more and more money. And it said at the end that soon he wasn't so poor anymore. So, okay, he's starting to make some good money. And it seems like he's not having to do too much work. So I would say he's probably pretty happy about this.
Yeah, that sounds really great. It's kind of, it is interesting how he doesn't seem to wonder why this happens or like how it's happening yet. So he's just, shoes, magic shoes, take the money and
I feel like in the beginning, or at least at this point, he's kind of like, ooh, this keeps happening. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to ask any questions, and I'm going to hope that it keeps happening again and again and again. But I think he is starting to get a little suspicious. And I think after our break, he might actually start to think, maybe I should figure out, why is this happening? Why are there shoes popping up on my table when I go to sleep? So after the break, let's go ahead and see, what is he going to do? What's he going to do to try to figure this out?
One night, the shoemaker talked to his wife. He said,
"Someone is helping us. Let's stay up and try to see them."
She liked that. So they found a place to hide. At midnight, 2 naked elves came. They went to the shoemaker's table and started to work.
All right, welcome back. We're continuing to talk about the shoemaker and the elves. And as we last read, the shoemaker has been finding these shoes again and again after he puts out the leather the night before. And I wonder if it'll keep happening for him. I guess we'll read to find out. One night, the shoemaker talked to his wife.
Finally, he's talking to his wife after all these days of shoes showing up. Now he's like, hey, maybe this is something I should figure out where these shoes are coming from. And so he talks with his wife, and his wife, a wife is a noun, and it is a woman who is married. So you would have a husband and a wife. Now, of course, you could also have a wife and a wife, a husband and a husband, all those kinds of things. But you have, in this case, wife, meaning a woman who is married, and so that would be a wife. And so he talks to her, and this is what he says. It says, he said, "Someone is helping us. Let's stay up and try to see them." She liked that, meaning she liked this idea. She's thinking, yeah, we should probably figure out who is helping us all this time, because I mean, especially if it was me, like I said before, I'd want to know who's coming into my house.
I think, if someone is coming into your house at night, I think you should probably find out.
Even though they're helping, I still would like to know what is going on.
That's right. So our next word is a phrase, which is stay up. So stay up means to not go to bed, to not go to sleep. So earlier, the shoemaker would go to bed after he put the leather out and then find the shoes. So in this case, instead, he's going to stay up, meaning he's not going to lie down, he's not going to try to sleep. He's going to stay up and see what is making these shoes, or what or who is making these shoes. The story continues. So they found a place to hide.
Yes, because so far, again, since they've been sleeping, they probably still need to pretend that they are asleep. They probably don't want whatever it is coming in and out to know that they're awake and watching them. So they want to find a place to hide. So hide is a verb, and it means to go somewhere where people can't see you. You might be hiding because you're scared. You might be hiding because you're playing hide and seek, a very popular game where, you know, one person is it and has to go find all the people who are hidden around the room. Or in this case, they're hiding because they want to be able to see what's coming in and out without maybe scaring that thing away or letting them know that they're not asleep. So they found a place to hide, and then what?
We're going to see what happens. So, at midnight, 2 naked elves came. They went to the shoemaker's table and started to work.
Oh, so finally we're starting to figure out who is helping them. And we finally have the characters from the title of the story. We finally see that there are elves. So, of course, reading the title of the story, we probably already had a guess that they were elves that were helping them. But now we finally know. So at midnight, we have this word midnight. Midnight, literally, if you look at the word, it says middle of the night. But this refers to a time, and that time is 12 a.m. So just like 12 p.m., we can say noon. There's another word for that, it's noon. And so 12 a.m. also has another word for it, and that is called midnight. Sometimes this just gets used as kind of like, oh, somewhere in the middle of the night, somewhere late. But it does actually have a time attached to it. So if you say midnight, then that should be 12 a.m., 12 in the middle of the night, and that word is a noun.
Okay. And we also have another vocabulary word, which is an adjective, and that is naked. So in the story they mentioned naked elves. Naked means not wearing any clothes. So no clothes at all, no underwear, no anything. So for example, if you're going to take a bath or a shower, you'll probably be naked at the time.
Yes, and although sometimes it can be easy to forget that you're wearing socks. I know that that's happened to a few different people that I know where they were going to take a shower and they were getting ready to get in the shower and they got in the shower and they still had their socks on.
So they weren't naked.
They weren't totally naked,
they
no.
still had their socks on.
But it is kind of funny that we've got elves who are naked, so that means that they don't have any shoes on, but they do know how to make shoes.
That is interesting. So they're making shoes for the shoemaker instead of making clothes for themselves.
Yeah. So, well, at least now we know who's helping the shoemakers, and so let's come back. Let's come back in the next episode and figure out what's the conclusion.
Right.
I mean, where is this story going? How is it going to end? And then we know that there's elves, but where are we going next?
Let's see.
In the morning, the shoemaker found shoes on his table again. He couldn't believe it. Then he sold the shoes and bought more leather. That happened again and again, and soon the shoemaker wasn't poor. One night, the shoemaker talked to his wife. He said,
"Someone is helping us. Let's stay up and try to see them."
She liked that. So they found a place to hide. At midnight, 2 naked elves came. They went to the shoemaker's table and started to work.
Hi, I'm Tina. 我们来看一下这一课的重点单字。第一个 sell 动词贩卖出售，它的三态是 sell, sold, sold. The shop sells candy and ice cream. 这间店卖糖果和冰淇淋。下一个单字 happen 动词发生。No one knows what happened during the blackout. 没人知道停电时发生了什么事。Blackout 就是指停电。下一个单字 wife 名词妻子，它的复数是 wives. Louis's wife is an actress. Louis 的妻子是一名演员。最后一个单字 hide 动词躲藏，它的三态是 hide, hid, hidden. Why do cats usually hide under the couch? 为什么猫咪通常会躲在沙发底下呢？ 接着我们来看一下重点文法。第一个 again and again， 反复的、一再的，这是一个副词片语。Again 是再次、再度的意思。我们来看看下面这个句子。Bill lied to his teacher again and again. Bill 对他的老师一再的说谎。下一个文法 A helps B，A 帮忙协助 B， 它的后面可以加上 with， 再接协助的事情。我们来看看下面这个句子。My father never helps my mother with the housework. 我爸爸从来不会帮我妈妈做家事。Housework 在这里指的是家务、家事。最后一个片语 stay up， 熬夜，这是一个固定用法。我们来看看下面这个情境。
You look tired. Look at your dark circles.
I stayed up to watch a basketball game last night.
Dark circles 在这里指的是黑眼圈，学起来了吗？我们下一课再见喽，拜拜。
Hi guys, I'm Stephen.
And I'm Jamie.
We're gonna play a game called Word Drop. We have 3 words or phrases on these cards that we haven't looked at yet, and we're gonna try to work it into a conversation as smoothly as possible. Jamie, start the conversation.
Okay, as smoothly as possible. All right.
As smoothly as possible.
Okay, so sometimes when you go outside, right, it's nice to stay indoors sometimes, but sometimes it's good to go outside into the world. And you can go whether you're going to work or school or restaurants or whatever, right? And the exciting thing about going out into the world, even though it's less comfortable than your bed, but it's just that there's so many things going on in the world, right? Just like so many new things happen every day. Like something happened to me yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Things happen to everyone every day. You're certainly correct about that. One of the places in Taipei, for instance, that I like to go to is Ximen. And when I go there, there are always these people on the street, and then like they're trying to like make friends with you or talk to you, but then you find out that they have a motive. And then now when I see them, I'm like, what do you want from me? What are you trying to sell?
A lot of people are trying to sell you things. And yeah, it's kind of, you kind of feel bad telling them I don't want to buy things because, you know they're just trying to make a living, but at the same time, I can't buy everything because then I would have nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to say no. And especially chain stores, I don't feel so bad. But sometimes when I see a small little restaurant or a small little store and it's just owned by maybe, some person or maybe a person and their wife, a person or their husband, yeah, I just feel bad for them and their husband or them and their wife.
What if it's not their husband or their wife? What if it's like a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Don't assume, okay, Jamie? Just like I shouldn't assume those people are trying to sell me something. Maybe they just really want to be friends. But, when I do see them, my first initial reaction is, I gotta run and I gotta hide. I just gotta do it. I don't wanna talk to them. I just hide.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess that's a good strategy to avoid your problems.
Yeah.
I think that type of thing, yeah, if you can hide, that's great. Sometimes if you can't, you do have to face them and just tell them no, right?
Yeah.
You have to practice saying no. And I think it can be really hard for some people though, right? For some people it's very easy, but some people it's very hard for them to say no. And I think a strategy to combat that is just to repeat it again and again. So practice again and again.
That is true. I feel like people like you who are very polite have trouble doing that. For me, I don't feel guilty about saying no or being mean to people. It doesn't make me stay up at night. So I usually sleep pretty well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's good to have good sleep.
See you next time.